Well, let's see how Nintendo Switch Online is doing. So it's nearly been 3 years since Nintendo launched Nintendo Switch Online on September 18th, 2018. The Big N's online access service set up to rival that of Sony's PlayStation Plus and Microsoft's Xbox Live Gold. And 3 years in, the best way to put how it's been going is that it has been pretty on brand with the questionable and outright nonsensical decisions that have been made for the service. From the jarring game chat system to ditching the virtual console in favor of the NES and SNES streaming libraries, the lack of desired content and the extra online offerings, to the servers not even being good to begin with, there has been a lot of tedious waiting, lagging, and turmoil in these first 3 years of the subscription service. And despite the access to Bluetooth controllers, Nintendo is running out of time to boost the morale of their subscription holders, and based on the current situation NSO is in, it looks as if they don't have any appetite to make things right anytime soon. Let's talk about it. I've talked about Nintendo Switch Online twice before on this channel, and both videos have become the ones that have attained the farthest reach. Something I'm very grateful for because it is a topic that I always have strong opinions on. The first video was more on the rumors and anticipation of a potential Nintendo 64 online feature. The follow-up was a more detailed hypothetical on what the service would entail if it eventually had arrived. In those videos, I was hopeful and had some excitement about the future of Switch Online's ventures. This will not be one of those videos. Nintendo Switch Online is on a dreadful trajectory. I've been a subscription holder since the day it launched, and despite my personal grievances about how the back catalog offerings are being handled, NSO has done little to nothing to do justice to the Switch as an extremely successful and industry-shifting console. When it was first confirmed that we would have to start paying out of pocket to play online on the Switch in a similar fashion to the system's competitors, we all hoped that it would result in better online gameplay and more dedicated servers to the Switch's library of popular online titles, as well as the desire to see Nintendo finally introduce an integrated party chat system reminiscent of the ones that thrive on Sony and Microsoft's platforms. What we ended up getting was the same crappy online play plaguing extremely profitable and critical games like Smash Ultimate, an overly complicated group chat feature that was limited to a mobile app, rendering it practically pointless, and a $10 hike in price that was supposedly justified by the addition of a very strange selection of 30-year-old titles. Everything that Switch Online has to offer has become nothing but a backhanded compliment to the consumers. Yes, cloud saves is nice, but it's sort of lame to not only put it behind a price wall, but to also not allow local backups at all. Yes, paying for access to online servers is understandable, but only if paid servers would improve the online play to begin with. Yes, having free games as a bonus for paying out of pocket every year is fantastic, but only if the games were up to snuff and not titles from 25 to 40 years ago that can easily be emulated on your average smartphone for no annual fee whatsoever. This is a massive problem. It has been a massive problem, and it will continue to be a massive problem until Nintendo finally opens their eyes to the fans and address the situation at hand. Of course, I can go on and on about how Nintendo has failed to even properly implement the basics that online multiplayer platforms like PS Plus and Xbox Gold have cemented for years now, but the main talking point I've held about Nintendo Switch Online from the start has to be addressed: the elephant in the room, NES and SNES Online. To put it bluntly, Nintendo has completely mishandled this asset and its contributions. It was initially a neat little bonus to the then new service that was the company's way to add additional content to make the consumers feel easier about beginning to pay to play, as well as to discourage one of Nintendo's biggest pet peeves in emulation. And if a new console had become accessible every September, then maybe it would have never became a glaring issue. But it has become incredibly stagnant, which has only allowed the subscribers like myself to further digest the negatives of it all as time continues to move forward. For example, in comparison to, let's say, the 2 free games you get every month with a PlayStation Plus subscription, those offered titles are mostly games that are of the current generation, full-fledged recent games, some that are only months old for no extra cost. And while the $40 price difference between the annual cost of PS Plus and NSO are in Nintendo's favor, the 24 free games you get at year's end on that side of the fence will outweigh the small library of obscure ROMs that are available on the Switch year-round. What bothers me from a functional standpoint is how much Nintendo sacrificed to introduce this new streaming format just to fail to optimize its potential. As of right now, you can get more legacy content offerings on the Wii U and the 3DS in comparison to the Switch. The Wii U! All the innovation and effort that was put into the Switch to make it the smash hit that it has become, that allowed Nintendo to recover from the bleak times of the Wii U, for me to come on here over half a decade after the Switch launched to say that it fails to outslug the Wii U in legacy content is flat out embarrassing. Virtual Console wasn't perfect, but it was loved. There was so much to be offered through Virtual Console. N64, GameCube, GBA, DS, even legacy content from a majority of Sega's consoles was available through Virtual Console at one point. It was a difficult transition to get rid of it completely and embrace the new online rollout. And in 3 years, what do we have to show for that? Claymates, Jelly Boy, and Bomb Boozle. Now, there's nothing wrong with those titles. Having any games added is good in a bubble, but the return on investment just hasn't been worth it. Not for the subscribers, and honestly not for Nintendo either. Because yes, I'm sure one of the reasons why they have been very complacent could be due to the success of the service or the Switch in general. However, Nintendo hasn't even utilized NSO to its best use financially. I mentioned in my N64 video how it would be easy money in advertising to introduce Nintendo 64 Online earlier this year, not only to celebrate the console's 25th anniversary, but because of the release of new Pokemon Snap that happened in April. Let's say it launches a few weeks before a new Snap game, and the original Pokemon Snap was included in the initial lineup. That's free advertisement to convince a lot of dedicated players to buy the follow-up, because I can tell you a lot of people who were on the fence like myself eventually decided not to pay a full $60 for a game about taking pictures. And as I was viewing how other creators are feeling about the situation, Spawnwave had a similar sentiment with the needed addition of Game Boy or GBA games on the platform soon, pointing to a perfect opportunity to use access to Metroid Fusion to build up extra anticipation for Metroid Dread. It's a tactic clear as day to myself and many others that Nintendo is choosing to neglect. With all of those issues being laid out to analyze, it brings us to our current scenario, where the ball is in Nintendo's court to improve and justify the present status of their online service, and we, the subscriber, have no other option than to hold out hope that there is something on the horizon that will finally address the multitude of factors that have now caused years of disgruntlement along the Nintendo faithful. I'm really not sure what to say to wrap up this video, because I'm just that unsure of what comes next for Switch Online and its services. The Switch itself has been a joy of a console to experience so far, and the number of first-party classics and even the wider access to indie and third-party titles on this hybrid form of gaming has been a successful revitalization of Nintendo as a company and as a hardware developer with staying power in the industry. That being said, I hope the lack of effort and radio silence that has become expected from the company in regards to NSO is due to the looming rollout of a revamped Switch Online system. Maybe Virtual Console can be revived and integrated into the subscription service. Maybe there will be a complete overhaul that will introduce a more universal and traditional way to have game chat. Maybe Nintendo is simply holding off and there will be a new console available on the online services in just about a month. Whether the case will end up being, I don't know, man. I just want to play Earthbound on Switch.